Welcome back, everyone, to Bagel Bites. This is episode number 4. Bagel Bites is a series of 6 interviews with 6 well-rounded bagel makers in the city of Seattle, proving every day that we know how to make bagels east of New York. But in particular, today, we are really excited to have one of the trailblazers of the Montreal style bagel introduced to the Seattle community. And Stephen Brown is our guest today from Eltana Bagels. And Eltana also has a lot of community service projects and an incredible menu of flavors that has really surprised all of us in Seattle that are traditionalists. And I love the influences that he brings. So we're really looking forward to talking with Stephen today. I'm also very excited that Warren Etheredge is joining us, my co-host for Bagel Bites and thought partner on many occasions, who loves to think about bagels in particular. So please welcome Stephen Brown and Warren Etheredge. And I'm gonna start off with the first question, which is, what is a Montreal bagel and why bring it to Seattle?
Well, Montreal is not a word we use, although I know where it is because I went to McGill University, which is in downtown Montreal. But you'll never find the word Montreal on the Eltana website or in any of our communications. It is indeed a bagel that we learned how to bake in Montreal. And there's a lot of different ways to describe what makes it different from from other bagels. And we promote several of those things. It's hand rolled. It's boiled in water with honey. It's seeded all over, so there's no top or bottom. And it's cooked in a wood-fired oven with a stone floor. So it starts its life on a wooden board and then is flipped over to a stone floor. And neither of those surfaces are abrading, so that's why you can have seeds all over. But the thing that truly makes it different is that the dough is mixed with ice water. So the dough is as stiff as you could possibly imagine. So all those things I told you about hand rolling and wood firing, those are driven by the dough, not the other way around. Because the dough is so stiff, we need to hand roll it. Because we hand roll it and it's so stiff, we can only make a very small batch. So that's why it's a very artisan project. If we were to double the dough size, we would need something like a concrete mixer to mix our dough. Because the stiffer the dough, the more intense the power of the mixer needs to be. Our bagels are not uniform. They're so non-uniform that we can't slice them with the machine. We only can slice them by hand.
So I won't say the M word, but the bagels, as you described, are different than a New York bagel.
Yeah, I don't even really know what a New York bagel is. You know, I've been to New York, of course, many times. I grew up in Toronto. Mm-hmm. Toronto, when I was there, probably had 150 or 160,000 Jews in metropolitan Toronto. There's dozens and dozens of independent bagel bakeries. Some of them making in a very light style, some of them making in a dense style, some huge bagels, some small bagels. But everyone knew in Toronto, everyone knew what they meant by a Montreal bagel. It was significantly different. I'm not sure there's much agreement on what a New York bagel is in Toronto. And in Seattle, I could tell you that not a day goes by where somebody doesn't come up to me and say, well, listen, I'm from New York, so they have a point of view. I grew up eating bagels from various bagel bakeries in Toronto. And it wasn't until I first discovered the Montreal style bagel while I was a student at McGill that I realized how significantly different it was from what I ate growing up. It was a sea change apart. It was very, very different.
Well, I mean, I certainly, like all other New Yorkers, have an opinion as to what makes a New York bagel. I think the distinction here with Eltana is important because it's sort of like if you ordered a pizza and you were expecting whether it's a New York style pizza and you got a deep dish, that's a very different thing. If you go to Eltana expecting something that is larger, denser, chewier, and a little saltier, you're going to be a little thrown by it. And so,
yes. I mean, people often think of Montreal bagels as sweet,
right?
But really they're not. They are less salty. So they're more neutral in that sense. Right. We use very, very little sugar in our dough. And what people are noticing is the lack of salt. It's a much more, I think it's a more neutral thing. Yeah, I mean, when we didn't use the word Montreal in our marketing, and we continue not to use it, for most people on the West Coast, when you say Montreal related to food, it either means French or cold. It doesn't conjure up anything. I would think that a significant portion of people in Seattle didn't even know that Montreal had a bagel culture, even though the New York Times does a story every couple of years about it.
Right. And this is one of the things that fascinates me, because on some level, I really envy you, because the idea of making bagels sounds fantastic to me. But I have to imagine you didn't grow up thinking this is what your career was going to be.
No, I would not say that I'm a bagel expert by any means.
Yeah.
So when people ask me about the history of bagels in Seattle, or even how to make a bagel, I've never made a bagel in my life. When I was raising money for Eltana, I went to 50 different living rooms and boardrooms, and only 2 out of the 50 people that I made presentations to asked me if I knew how to make a bagel. Indeed, I don't. I would not call myself a bagel expert, but I've done a variety of entrepreneurial things, and many here in Seattle. And there is a common thread through what I do that carries on in Eltana to this day.
And what is that?
Well, thank you for asking. And feeding you softballs. I've always been fascinated with the hospitality, almost in an anthropological way. Very interested in what it means to greet somebody, what it means to make somebody feel at home. How do you catalyze connection between people? So, and I'm also very interested in social innovation. What can I invent and put between people that will help them enjoy each other more? And my previous business in Seattle was something called Entros, which was specifically focused on inventing collaborative social play. And while I'm no longer in the business of inventing collaborative social play, Eltana does much to catalyze connection with people, including we publish every 2 weeks we publish our own crossword puzzle, which is a New York Times style 15 by 15 crossword puzzle. And not in these past few weeks, but in a typical week, dozens of people are leaning in together over the puzzle, solving it. Our marketing is designed I think our marketing is particularly Jewish, because what we don't do is we don't broadcast. We don't tell people anything. We don't tell them what to think, what to feel, or what to do. Instead, what we do is we do things that we think are interesting. And if you're curious, you'll lean forward and ask for more information. For example, my shirt we don't have shirts rendered in English. We only have them in Hebrew and Arabic and Japanese and sign language. And we assume that 99% of our customers can't read most of our shirts, even though a lot of people can read Hebrew. So we do that as an example. That's how we market. What does that say? What does Eltana mean? Then we're in a conversation with people. So that's building on my interest in social connection.
So Stephen, if I can ask a quick question, because I believe that in the bagel makers that we're talking to, everybody has different qualities. Your quality, and I've known you also for a while, and I've eaten your bagels for many years. When you opened up your Capitol Hill place, I actually have a friend's daughter who works for you. I mean, it's all in the family, but you bring an intelligence and an intellectual curiosity to what you do. The crossword puzzle on the wall, obviously, was one of those, but also, not many people know who the Lamed Vovniks are.
Yes.
Right. And this is a part of your social action work, but it brings, you're also, you allow a certain curiosity in customers and people. Lamed Vovniks is this concept, right, of 36 individuals in the world, and I have it up here on the screen, not known to anyone, and at any moment, there's a whole lot of Yiddish folklore around this, right?
Yes.
Somebody could show up and you better treat that person well and feed them and take care of them. It's Ochnat Hasim, it's, you know, it's this notion of bringing people into your home because you never know.
Yeah.
So but you allow a kind of intellectual and social activist curiosity. So where does that come from?
Yeah, I guess it comes from a few things. It comes definitely from my love of Jewish type learning. I was a Jewish studies minor at McGill University, and I belonged to a synagogue that I would call a very intellectually curious congregation. And I have, by interacting with the 90% of people at my synagogue who know so much more than me, I have been piqued. And my curiosity and the skill set I do have, which is this ability to sort of figure out how to get people to talk to each other, just comes together in the Eltana marketing. So another example at Eltana is, you talked about welcoming the stranger. We have mounted on the wall, up high in the ceiling plane, Elijah's chair. And 1 in 100 people, no, 1 in 1,000 people asks us about that. And when they ask, we'll tell them it's to remind our staff to be on the lookout for the person who has not yet arrived, to be welcoming the stranger. And you know, it's so infrequent that people ask us about it, but when they do ask us about it, they are delighted to have been part of that learning. So that's the kind of learning that I'm interested in. And also, you know, the flip side of that part of our brand, the one that invites conversation, is also one that is, I think, you know, fairly humble. We don't think that anybody wants to be told what to do or what to think or what to feel, in general, by anybody, but particularly by the, you know, by the bagel store. I mean, what, you know, who are we to tell you what to do? So we don't use any adjectives in our marketing at all. We'll never say this is great, this is delicious. We might say it's hand rolled, which is descriptive, of course, but we let other people talk about their assessment of us using adjectives, and we leave that to them.
So can you tell us a little bit, just to make clarity about the 36, the Hidden 36 program, sure, what that is?
So I'm going to back up a couple of steps. So we have a program. If you work for us for 6 months, I'm not sure if your friend's daughter is there. If you work for us for 6 months, you get an invitation in the mail, which is called an over-the-counter. And the over-the-counter invitation invites you to take on a project for 100 hours at $33 an hour to improve Eltana in any way you see fit. Anything. You don't have to have expertise in it. You could help us invent a new spread. You could help us work on freezing technologies. You could do community outreach. You could help us with recycling, whatever turns you on. And somebody came to us about 3 years ago with trying to think about how they would menuize, to lack of better, giving. You know, one of the things I do, you know, you go to every grocery store, you're checking out, they said, you want to throw $3, give $3 to this charity. That doesn't resonate with me. It's like, yes, I do, but what's that got to do with you? Whereas at Eltana, we have right on the menu, you can buy a half dozen bagels for yourself for $10.50. You actually get 7. Or you can buy a half dozen bagels to be delivered fresh, hot, the next morning to a food bank for $3.60. Clearly, without us having to explain it, the customers are smart enough to know, well, look, if you're selling it for $10.50 and delivering it to a food bank for $3.60, you're joining us in this act of charity. And that's what we love. We love assuming our customers are smart, not having to trumpet our own anything, and just inviting them to share with us. So the program has been so successful. It's been up for 3 years. On any given day, dozens and dozens of people participate. and it's evergreen. And it's evergreen in a sense, not only it's not just for pandemic times, it's for all times. And to signal that it was evergreen, the logo for the Hidden 36 is made out of forged metal, and it's screwed into our concrete pillar to let people know, basically, this is not something we're doing as a promotion. This is part of the essence. And our staff wears these sweatshirts, these Hidden 36 sweatshirts, and it doesn't even say Hidden 36, just says 36. Will Berkowitz came up with the name, by the way.
Smart man, that Will Berkowitz.
Love that guy.
So you're doing so much to both build community and help community, and waiting for people to lean in and do that. I know that the deliveries are going very well for you. You're in multiple neighborhoods. What are those neighborhoods? So people.
Well, the first neighborhood was Issaquah, and that was driven by, again, this woman just sent me an email after 4 days after the governor ordered a stay at home, and she said, "Would you consider delivering Eltana Bagels to our family in Issaquah? We love them." And my answer was basically no. It's too far, and we can't. We only have one van, and we can't drive out 16 miles to Issaquah. We love you, but we can't do it. And she said, "Well, what if I got a few people on my block?" And I said, "Well, maybe. I don't know what that means." So she was, I guess, media savvy. So she made a post, and she created a Google Doc, and she linked the Google Doc to the post. And then 2 days later, she sent me a spreadsheet with 186 orders within 3 miles of her. And I said, "Yes, we will deliver to Issaquah." And we spent 3 days. Issaquah houses are it's windy streets. We spent 3 days driving around Issaquah delivering bagels, door to door. So then we did it in West Seattle, because West Seattle is, as you know, very inaccessible right now. Mm-hmm. And then we did it on Bainbridge Island, of all places. And we thought, Bainbridge Island is so big, we cannot drive around Bainbridge Island. So we just went to this one park, and we said, we'll be at this park for 3 hours on Friday, 275 orders. And so I guess there's, I think it's a mix of the times, but also the fact that I think bagels are the kind of food that people want to have stocked in their freezer and spreads in their fridge. It's not quite as, I'm not sure what the word is, a staple as milk, for example. You could run out of milk, and if you have kids, you can't be out of milk for a day. But bagels, I think cereal can bridge you for a day. And so we are finding that we're just blown away by the response to this neighborhood delivery program.
Well, I'd like to suggest that there should be sort of a neighborhood West Side Story thing going on here to see who could be the 5th and 6th and 7th neighborhood to get enough orders.
I think that's great. The next neighborhood we're doing is Northeast Seattle. 98115 and 98105 is delivered on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday this week.
Well, 98107 and 98177 are ready to throw down.
Yeah, we are looking forward to finding the person who's going to be our angel in those neighborhoods.
Well, we will make that happen somehow. I think it's a fantastic thing that you're doing.
Thank you.
It's really great work. Pamela, I'm sure you have some final thoughts.
Well, I just want to say thanks, Stephen, for what you do. You bring a kind of intellectual curiosity to Jewish food in general, to your menu using, Arabic, Middle Eastern, Moroccan, so many different influences and flavors. Obviously, you are not just a bagel man. You've got an incredible spread, za'atar. You were really one of the first people to introduce a lot of flavors that were Jewish globally into the Seattle region. Please let us know just quickly how we can both support you at this time and make you drive around other zip codes, as well as what the future is right now for Eltana Bagels.
Sure, I'd be happy to do that. So both of our stores are open, slightly shortened hours, 8 o'clock till 3 p.m. Our little Seattle Center kiosk is not open because the Seattle Center Armory building is closed. Those 2 stores are open, and customers can walk in and buy food to go. And I think our customer counts might be 70% of typical, which is pretty darn good. But people are spending more because they're buying for their freezers and fridge. So our typical customer is more of a grocery customer right now. So you can come to either of our stores. You can also order through any of our delivery services, the typical delivery services that other people are using. But our neighborhood delivery program is going to come to your neighborhood soon. The way it starts in every neighborhood, and this might be an invitation to your listeners, is somebody in that neighborhood says, I'd like to spread the word. And that's what we've done in all 6 neighborhoods that we've done. Somebody comes from 98107 and says, I want to post that Eltana is coming to our neighborhood in 8 days. And then he or she just posts it on Nextdoor and on Facebook, and the sheet just populates by itself. I can tell you, my business partner, Daniel, and I are just exhausted, quite frankly. I mean, we are, we have both of our ovens going more than they've ever been going in these past few weeks. And we're very grateful that people like our food, and we're pleased that we can get it to them. We think of bagels as a comfort food, or as a soul food, if you will. And indeed, the people who are showing up are saying they're very pleased to get it.
Well, I'd say no matter what you call the bagels, even if we don't say the M word, there is a difference between what some people think of bagels and what Eltana bagels are, certainly. Yeah. And one of the beauties of that is that you can actually use both in your sort of rotation. So I do think of bagels as a staples, and Eltana bagels are such a wonderful change of pace, and I love them every single time.
Oh, thank you.
They are different, and I think of them as sweet, but you may be absolutely right. They're just less salty, but that's what a lifetime of salt has done to me. So they're absolutely fantastic, and the za'atar spread is wonderful. I'll use the adjectives if you won't, even though they're hand rolled.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stephen.
Thanks,
Thank you
for being part of Bagel Bites.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye. Good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos.